Welcome to the Soapbox Top 5 Ways to Get the Most Value Out of Your ServiceNow Environment. I am Mark Chen, your host, and today I am in the Soapbox AI offices in Cremorne, and if you do hear some noise in the background, it's because stuff is getting done. Paul Heath, co-founder and vice president of product marketing, is with us today, and he and I will be tackling the issues of how to get the most value and efficiency gains from your ServiceNow investment. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Mark. Good to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Before we begin, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about Soapbox.
Sure. So Soapbox was born from the observation that tools in the service management industry were largely being used by people to capture calls and work on calls, and the experience and that a customer got from calling into a service desk was directly related to the experience of the person you happened to get in touch with on that call. So
Right.
if you were lucky enough to get someone who'd been there 2 or 3 years and knew exactly what the issue was, you got a great experience. If you happen to be unlucky and get someone on their first day on the job,
Yep.
you typically got a bad experience. So we looked at, having spent 20 years in this industry implementing various tool sets, looked at how could we leverage the emerging artificial intelligence technologies that were becoming available a few years ago to be able to tap into the data that existed in these systems, to use that data to provide predictions and automations to be able to get work done faster.
Right.
So that was the starting point for Soapbox.
Right. So from what I've been gathering, that a lot of service teams are almost at the breaking point. What are we looking at? 46%?
Yeah, that's right. In fact, ServiceNow have recently commissioned a study, or completed a study, that showed that 64% of service desk personnel were at breaking point. Essentially, they're dealing with so much demand coming from the business that the only way to service that demand is through manual intervention, that they were essentially struggling to keep up with the demand, and that was putting massive strain on budgets, operational budgets, and it was also impacting business productivity because it was taking longer to get things resolved.
Right. Okay. So in a nutshell, what does Soapbox do?
So Soapbox is an intelligent service management platform that we've built from the ground up with AI in mind. So Soapbox has the ability to observe your best agents, provide predictions and recommendations to other agents to enable them to deliver a consistent experience, and ultimately automate as many as 80% of calls coming into the desk by customers. So really what we've built is a smart service desk.
That's interesting. It sounds like you've invented something really different here, and I think AI is the key to this, isn't it?
Yeah, AI, the advent of AI technologies in the last few years and the availability of that technology has enabled us to be able to really tap into the vast amounts of what we refer to as dark data that exists within these systems, and be able to use that to drive automation at levels that we've never been able to see before.
Okay, but what if I'm not ready? What if as an organization I've invested in ServiceNow and I'm not ready to make that shift? How does Soapbox help me?
Yeah, look, a really good point. We identified this as a strategy from the get-go, that organisations have invested heavily in these platforms, and they're not about to, no matter how good our value proposition is for a replacement strategy, to replace that existing system, people would need to kind of provide a stepping stone to that level of automation. So essentially what we've done is you can think of Soapbox as having 3 different layers: a system of record, which is that traditional workflow engine; a system of intelligence, which is where all the AI layer sits; and a system of engagement, which focuses on the end customer and the agents, of how they tap into that capability of the platform. And what we've done is we've been able to, by layering it that way, we've been able to take out that system of intelligence and make that available as a plug-in to ServiceNow to be able to provide that core intelligence capability that we have in the platform to ServiceNow customers.
Right. It sounds like you've planned out your migration path very, very carefully. Have you guys given a persona to your system of intelligence? And
yeah, we kind of, you can think of our virtual agent or our intelligence layer as a persona we call Sophie. So think of her as analogous to Siri or Alexa in your home life.
Yep.
We have Sophie that kind of provides guidance and support to customers of people using these IT support functions and other support functions within a business.
Right, so I interface with Sophie, and Sophie does all the heavy lifting in the back. So I don't really have to worry about looking for stuff. It's like Sophie does most of that. Is that
Yeah, essentially, you would engage with Sophie through one of our various channels, voice or text or Slack.
Yep.
And Sophie's there interpreting your intent, interpreting what you're really looking for, and then serving up content, serving up artifacts that exist in not only ServiceNow but elsewhere within the business. Really that ability to understand natural language and then
Right.
be able to act and automate based on that to get you to where you need to be is a key function of what Sophie does.
Right. So from what I can tell, you guys have been in the business for more than 20 years. And we're working with in the IT or in the service management space, and also I think you guys seem to have a very clear understanding of the pain points that ServiceNow customers have. Did this sort of insight come overnight?
No, as you say, we've been in the industry for, dare I say it, 20 odd years, but specifically in the ServiceNow industry for the last 10 years. In fact, in our previous lives, we founded a company that introduced ServiceNow into the local market.
Right.
So, and that was back in 2007. So we've seen a lot of implementations, a lot of maturing of ServiceNow customers over those years. And specifically over the last 2 years with Soapbox, we've been engaging into that ServiceNow community and have customers using Sophie on top of ServiceNow. And so we've got a lot of insight into where some of the challenges that those customers find themselves within those implementations. And what we're going to talk about over the next few episodes is some of those key challenges. We've identified 4 or 5 key challenges, and the one we'll talk about today is around the around Service Portal and
Right.
how customers are struggling with some of their adoption of ServiceNow Service Portals.
Right. So I'm hearing that what I'm hearing is that that self-service is an issue for level 1, and they're having some issues with the portal. Is that correct?
Well, self-service has been a consistent theme for most ServiceNow customers, that the business is trying to, as the demand increases for those service functions, be it HR or IT, and essentially the only way to scale that demand or scale to meet that demand is to add more people. That puts pressure on operational costs.
Right.
Because people are not the most efficient way of handling repetitive routine tasks. The time it takes to get those things resolved increases and has an impact on business productivity. So there's definitely been a trend towards self-service portals and trying to shift more to the left. And but by investing in those areas, many customers have done, they're finding that typically there's a low level of adoption of that. And we believe that
Right.
there's some consistent things that inhibit that adoption of that investment in a self-service portal.
Right. So what I'm hearing is that businesses have invested in a self-service portal, very low adoption rates for whatever reason, friction within the system, or I'm sure you have insights on that, on why there is such low adoption rates. And I'm guessing that if I'm getting onto a portal and I'm not able to find what I want to find, I'm picking up the phone.
Yeah, it's very analogous to the internet and pre-Google, right? That we've got all this content out there. Imagine trying to find what you're looking for without something like Google. And essentially that's what we're doing with Sophie. We're providing a layer of search capability and natural language understanding to be able to help a customer who comes to that ServiceNow environment through a portal or through Slack or through one of the other channels that we provide. And Sophie's there, like Alexa or like Siri, or Google, trying to guide the customer through
Right.
to find the right artifact as quickly as possible. And that's fundamentally what we're doing.
Okay, so that the key sounds like that natural language processing is a key to how Sophie interacts.
Well, that and also our ability to do search and really be able to search not only across ServiceNow, artifacts such as knowledge and record producers and service catalog items, but also externally to ServiceNow. So we have customers that are tapping into SharePoint and Confluence databases and making that information available via a Sophie search.
Right.
Because often, especially if not for customers, then for agents, that the information doesn't live on ServiceNow. It may live somewhere else in the organisation.
Well, the picture is worth 1,000 words, Paul. Do we have a demo?
Sure. I was hoping you were going to ask me that, Mark. it's easier to show than to tell sometimes. So let me show you what we've got on the screen over here. Essentially, this is a ServiceNow Service Portal that we've configured up. And the design philosophy that we typically encourage customers to take on when they look at Sophie integrated into ServiceNow is a very Google-like simple environment where you've got essentially a search box. We are asking the question, how can I help? Yeah. And we try and remove all the clutter of categories of knowledge or forms that typically exist on these systems, and we just really present you with an interface to say to ask what's going on, how can we help?
Well, I guess it's really familiar to anyone who uses Google, isn't it? This is it. This is without the clutter, without categories that you have to search through and get lost in.
That's right. And what typically we find we hear back from customers is that when they go to these portals that they've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in developing, and all the artifacts, all the catalog items and knowledge that they've built up, is that their experience is, wow, this is overwhelming, I'm not sure where to go.
Right.
So they end up calling the service desk, or they end up filling out a generic form,
yeah.
and then the service desk has to triage that, call them back. So it's really counterintuitive to the whole intent of building out the service portal in the first place, which is self-service. So what we find when we have Sophie in place is we can encourage the customer to just type what they're looking for. As I'm typing this, you can notice that I'm not even having to focus on spelling.
I was going to call you out on that one.
Yeah, I'm purposely misspelling. My spelling's not that bad normally. But one of the things that if you were to do this on a ServiceNow search screen, that this would fail to find anything related to password resets, because ServiceNow doesn't handle spell checking.
Right.
It's one of the simple but fundamental things that we do from a natural language processing point of view, is to be able to handle simple language constructs like spell checking and synonyms and lemmatization and other more complex things to enable us to more accurately throw a wider net over what potentially the customer is asking about and looking for. So in this particular case, Sophie's popped up. You can see Sophie appears as this kind of chat virtual agent, engages with me, knows who I am, and says, look, I haven't been able to find any specific answers to that question, but here's some articles, here's some artifacts that might be useful, either some knowledge articles or some service catalog items. And as I mentioned earlier, it's not just ServiceNow articles that we can search and identify. In this case, it's a SharePoint article that we've ingested, and we're able to search across. And this is one of the fundamental points of difference between us and what ServiceNow does natively in the platform. But it may be also a catalog item is the most appropriate artifact to solve their problem. And so here we've got an example of a simple catalog that allows them to submit a reset of a password. But let's have a look at another example, shall we? Which is where I ask the question, which is perhaps a bit more generic. I can't log in, for instance. Not enough information there. If you called into a service desk agent and asked and said, hey, I can't log in, they'll probably say, so more information, please. Yep. That's exactly what Sophie's done here.
Okay.
Sophie understands that we've got an access issue around an application, but just wants to confirm that. So we can either just click on these little icons, or we can type, or we could even use voice to interact with Sophie.
Right.
And the first question that Sophie, like a human, would want to know is, well, what system are you trying to access? Oh, it's my SAP system.
Right. So she's trying to fill in the gaps and prompt you along. So you're
exactly, really trying to clarify intent is what we talk about. This process. So we're trying to triage what the issue may be, just like a human would do.
Yeah.
So you've got an access issue. What's the application trying to access? What's SAP? So what's the issue? Can you not log in, or is it a password issue, or you can't access the application? So it might be that you don't have access to the network, or you've got a connectivity issue. So hence, the way to answer that or determine that is you ask a simple question. We're going to say, oh, I can't log in.
Right.
And so Sophie presents a knowledge article that says, okay, well, would this knowledge article be useful? We look at that and on password reset. No, it's actually not a password issue. So let's say no, that didn't solve the problem. Well, there could be some other things that it may be. Now let's say it's a locked session. My SAP session is locked effectively. In order to resolve this, the agent or the organization needs to know the session ID. So we can either assign that to someone or maybe even fire an automation. In this case, we're just going to collect the information, what the session ID is, and we're going to create a ticket in the system, in this case an incident in ServiceNow, and have that assigned to the right team. And if I was to look at that quickly, just to show you what the other side of Sophie looks like, and how Sophie assists the agents, here's that incident that's just been created. It's automatically being classified by...
And populated.
So there's the category, it's a request, it's an account logged. There's the information in this that we've captured from the call. We've also got the chat history, and so and this has been assigned to the right team, the service center in this case.
Right, so this is now the handoff to a human agent, and the human agent now has everything they need to solve the problem. That's
right. So hopefully removing the need to go back to that customer and ask for more clarified information, which is if they just logged a generic request saying, hey, I can't log in, then the first thing they would need to do is call the customer back, have that conversation, try a couple of things.
And ask for the session ID again and start from the top, isn't it?
That's right. And then ultimately what you would want to be able to do is if there's an automation system to be able to reset or unlock a session ID, then rather than creating an incident as we have in this case, we could just fire an automation to automatically unlock that session based on the information that's being gathered through the conversation. So let's have a look at one last example, and this is where it starts to really get kind of Siri-like, where we start to engage with Sophie via voice.
Okay.
Let me ask the question, I want to take 2 days of family leave starting next Tuesday. So you can see what Sophie's done is Sophie understands that there's a form in the system, an existing leave request form that exists in the HR system of ServiceNow that we're bringing to the customer's attention and asking, would you like some help completing that form? So if we say yes, essentially what Sophie's doing is she's stripping out information from that initial question, such as the leave type, the date of the leave, the start date of the leave, and the duration, therefore the end date. Also asking, would you like to leave any additional information? What's the reason for the leave? And I can just say, because I'm feeling tired. And then we can go off and submit that call. So the ability to do that, of course, and through a different channel, if you're on Slack or through another mechanism where you didn't have access to the portal, you can now interact with a process that's being built out in ServiceNow, in this case through a form, without even going to ServiceNow.
So what would normally be a 45-minute process is done in a minute and a half.
That's right.
That's amazing. And I am guessing that this sort of natural language processing is not available on the ServiceNow platform.
ServiceNow have a virtual agent. A lot of ServiceNow customers might be listening to this vidcast and saying, well, ServiceNow have a virtual agent. And they do, and I think it's coming out of Madrid. But the challenge with their implementation of a virtual agent is it's very much like that pizza ordering application where you have to be very specific about what you're wanting to do. If it doesn't know something, if you haven't configured it to know something about leave applications, then it can't do any searching outside. Definitely can't do any searching across federated knowledge sources like I showed with SharePoint. And the other challenge is it's all very much keyword-based searching. So if I don't put exactly the right keyword phrases in, then it's going to fail. Right.
Okay, so this is something definitely that can add value to my ServiceNow environment and extend its capability.
That's right, and the next episode we'll talk about and show how Sophie plays a role to guide agents to assist in resolving calls faster as well, and that's definitely another area that ServiceNow don't provide any capability around today.
Great, and there you have it. Thanks, Paul, for giving us your time. And for the rest of you guys, watch out for our next episode where we use Sophie to increase your first contact resolution rates. In the meantime, if people want to find out more about Soapbox, where can they go, Paul?
Sure, they can go to our website, soapbox.ai, and they can sign up for a trial of Sophie on their ServiceNow non-production environment. They can also sign up for a demo of our intelligent service management platform, Soapbox.
Fantastic, and we'll see you next episode.